And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we hear of brave missionaries who risked their lives to share Christ in the Far East.
Welcome to This Week in Seventh-day Adventist History. On January 6, 1998, Ivan V. Stonebrook died in Loma Linda, California, aged 86. He had served the church for 42 years. Ivan and his first wife, Grace, were called as missionaries to China and Burma in June 1940, and they ended up being the last missionaries to arrive in China before the Japanese invasion severed communications with America. Ivan and Grace landed at Shanghai in November 1940, but were immediately put on another ship for another long voyage to Burma, where they served for almost a year until the Japanese invaded that country, at which point they made a perilous journey back to China by road over mountains. The Stonebrooks then served in southwest China in difficult and dangerous circumstances for 5 years until they returned home in 1947. Ivan later served extensively in church education in North America, ending his career of service as Associate Director of Education for the General Conference. On January 11, in 1894, Ezra A. Poole died aged 87. Poole had been a Congregationalist minister in his youth, and in that capacity had preached the Second Advent of Christ in 1844. He went through the Great Disappointment, but in 1850 became a Seventh-day Sabbath keeper and one of the first Sabbatarian Adventist ministers. He was a delegate from New York State to the conference held in Battle Creek in the autumn of 1860 that took initial steps towards formally organizing the Sabbatarian Adventists. It was Poole who proposed that we call ourselves Seventh-day Adventists, which the delegates to that conference voted after having been deadlocked on the issue of a name. Without the early steps taken by the 1860 conference, the formal founding of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in May 1863 could not have been taken. And without Ezra Poole, in the most literal sense, there might be no Seventh-day Adventists. That was This Week in Adventist History.